Our first stop is the home of Marquette Clay. Well, Marquette, you have such a beautiful and inviting landscape. As I pulled up front, the white fence and the lush plantings called me in here.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a lot of work and it's fun.
I'm sure it is a lot of work. I was looking at this, there's such wonderful structure to the landscape. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's always important, especially here in Oklahoma, to have your evergreens in place. And with the evergreens in place, then you can kind of form your garden. And I use that by just making my walls with the boxwoods and the privet hedge and just building a foundation with evergreens.
And you've really framed in this front yard space.
Yeah, a lot of people call it little rooms or little pockets here.
That's true, yeah. And I really love the color combination that you have. And of course, we have to look at this amazing green door that's part of that, drawing you in. It's so inviting.
Well, thank you. It was a suggestion by some editors, and I took their suggestion and ran with it.
And the plants really play off of that well. You have the purples and the chartreuse.
I try to keep that color palette kind of going through. I wanted a color palette that had some masculinity to it, so I go with the purple, and the chartreuse adds that little pop.
Well, and they play off one another so well.
Quite well, yes.
The other thing I noticed is this wonderful texture. I looked at the little fern by the front door.
Yes.
You have so much texture in here and so much diversity.
Well, it just adds that interest because that's what you want. You want a little something to grab your eye and pull you to focal points and special parts of the garden. So I try to pop things here and there just to give you a little interest.
Now, there's a really unusual design here on the side yard.
Sure.
The driveway. Tell me a bit about your driveway.
Well, the driveway was to mimic an old driveway where you would pull down and form a grass patch down the middle. But this is a little bit more refined and a little bit easier to manage.
Yeah, you have it framed in.
A little framed in work there, but
keep it edged.
Yeah, keeps it.
And of course, there's that big mass of canna that just draw you into the backyard.
Yeah, it just plays off of the same color palette, and back there I do the same as the front. So this kind of invites you and keeps the same continuity through the whole garden.
Marquette, your backyard living space is just so warm and comfortable. I imagine you enjoy spending some time out here.
I do. It's been a little tough this summer, but the fall is really nice. I can have a fire here, and it's a low maintenance area using all the gravel. And
yeah, a nice continuity here from the driveway
from
coming
the driveway
in.
into the back.
Yeah, but then it's a hard surface, but you've softened it again with all these lush plantings.
Once again, a lot of containers, which I try to keep evergreens in, just to have that from season to season color change. And
you'll keep these out all winter.
All
keep
winter
the evergreens
long.
in the containers. Yeah. Wonderful. And keeps it nice and colorful back here.
It keeps it alive during the winter.
Tell me a bit about this structure.
Well, the structure started as a play. This was one single cedar tree here in the back. So from that single cedar tree, we added some just poles of cedar. And when we thought about an arbor, we thought, well, let's just have that same look. So when you look past it, you just see these cedar poles going up and the ones behind an actual tree that's back there.
I like how you've pulled them out into the landscape as well.
Just to pull your eye out, and most people go, wow, there was a lot of cedar trees here. It was like a forest. Like, no, they were kind of brought in.
Brought in, but they have such a good texture and interest.
Well, I like it. I like that really earth feel.
And you have a wonderful fire pit. I imagine this is just such a warm place
I
to spend
enjoy
your
it
falls.
in the falls, yeah. In the fall, I'll start my fire, and even if I'm not out here enjoying it, I can see it from inside the house. So it's my outside room. I enjoy it.
And that's nice, that connection to the inside, that it's kind of an extension of the home, and to think about it that way. Well, there's one plant I wanted to take a look at. We can't leave without a plant. And you have this chocolate mimosa.
Chocolate mimosa, and it's doing quite well. It enjoyed the heat of the summer.
Yeah.
And grew quite a bit.
Not many plants have done that.
No, here in Oklahoma, you have to be careful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your home with us.
Well, thank you. You're invited back anytime.
We're at the home of Suzanne Wallace Mears, a local ceramic and glass artist, and certainly a good gardener as well. You have a beautiful landscape here. Now, you were telling me earlier that when you first moved here, there wasn't a lot to the landscape, but you really wanted to create a lush, inviting environment. Tell me about this.
There was not one stick here in the front or the back, and I did want to create an environment that I would be inspired to live in and that I could showcase my artwork. And I'm an avid gardener, so it's been a lot of fun. I don't always know the right names for what I plant. I basically go and choose everything and put it together based on how I like to look at it.
I imagine you are
an
attracted
experiment.
more to color or texture or form.
All color, texture, form,
All
yes,
those
all of
things.
those things. Yeah.
And you said you also like to have wildlife in your landscape as well.
I love wildlife. I would love it if I was able to have more wildlife. I have a lot of birds here. I love the birds, and I feed them massive amounts of food. And I
seen
have
the
4 or
feeders.
5 different water features, and which of course this summer has been a really difficult summer. It's been very hard to keep things, the plant life and the wildlife,
Yes.
living.
Yeah, and I've noticed the birds coming around. They're just flocking to our feeders and water features especially. So I think it's wonderful you have these strewn about throughout the landscape.
Thank you.
You've also created a really nice living environment, and you mentioned the idea of being inspired, having a space to create in. This is, to me, just very inviting. I can imagine you come out here to work. And
I
think
come out
how
here all the
bright
time.
it is.
I start my day out here, and I start my day because I love to look at how my glass looks, how my sculptures look, and how the landscaping looks, and see all the birds because they come early in the morning.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful way to begin the day.
Absolutely. Now tell me a bit about how you work with your sculpture in the landscape. I think when people come here for the tour, there's so much to look at, so much art and color. But tell me how you use these sculptures in the landscape.
Well, I move them around for one thing because I love to see kind of how they look in different settings. And I love the color intermixed with, obviously you can see a lot of green, and we need to think green right now, and you're going
Yes.
green. So it's fun to have it kind of just set, all of a sudden just set aside with a little spark.
Yeah, the pieces are very bold, and so they do
Well, I
stand
love
out
color,
so
which you
nice.
can see, Kim. I mean, I'm all about color and always have been. And sometimes I have to limit myself with the color. And of course, I've done that. Well, here, I mean, it's basically a backdrop of texture and greens. And I love trees and plants. So.
Yeah, well, and they make a wonderful setting for the artwork to showcase.
Yeah, they do. I know.
Well, I think our visitors are certainly in for a treat when they come out here.
Hope so. I really hope that they love what they see, and I hope it's different. I hope all of a sudden it inspires them to use art in their own environment. And that's one thing. I mean, I paint chairs, I paint walls, but obviously you can see Purple Fingers Malloy did that, but I mean, I'm certainly capable of getting a paint can out.
Yeah, bring some color
So
in.
it's always a
can.
matter, if something doesn't quite work out well, figure out a way that you paint it.
Paint it, try something
Move
new.
it.
But I absolutely agree. I think art and gardens go hand in hand, and this is a wonderful bit of inspiration for us.
Thank you, Kim, so much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for including me.
You're welcome. Thank you. We're at the home of Rob Littlefield. Rob, your garden is just full of character. I absolutely love it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a fun garden. As you go around it, you're going to discover that it's large. And it's a large garden because it's in a neighborhood called Meadowbrook Acres. It was back in the early 20s when it was founded. And these were summer cabins for the Belle Isle Amusement Park.
Oh.
So what makes this yard so unique and the neighborhood unique is the space. So, if you're going to garden in this neighborhood, here it is.
And you have really used this space so well. As we wind through, there's all these little rooms.
Yeah.
And you've defined them. We have little archways as we pass from one to
Doorways.
the other. Doorways, absolutely. Little portals, right? And the bamboo. I like how you've used the bamboo kind of as walls of those rooms. And you said you leave the old cuttings in there?
I leave the old cuttings in to act as stakes for the new growth, because the new growth is fragile, particularly the kind of year we've had this year with the heat. Normal summers it would be much taller and much more mature. And I clip the sides of them to make the walls.
Yeah, and that kind of just holds them in place.
Yeah,
Really nice. So as we move through your garden, you have all these little rooms. Tell me about it. I love how you've named them all.
I've named them.
Where are we now over
Well,
here?
this is the party deck over here, which you can tell that that's exactly what it would be used for.
got
And
your fire.
partying can be just having coffee in the morning too. And then over in this area, this is the RV park.
I love the
And
RV.
I love the RV park.
Let the white trash come out, right?
White trash, yes, for sure. And
this space.
this doesn't have a name, but it was the
Oh.
first area. When I first moved into the property, the only thing that was here was that redbud tree, and I flopped that deck on the ground, and that started this garden. There were 2 white plastic chairs there, and there was nothing else in this yard, nothing.
No, you had your shade, and that was
That's
about it.
And then that inspired my friend RD and I to get going, and plants started coming in, and in 7 years, this is what's happened.
You've really come a long way
I
in
think-
7 years.
Thank you.
There's so much plant material here. It's so lush. I love that. And the masses, the way you have big clumps of color and big clumps of structure or texture.
I like that. I like groups of like things, and I let the groups tend to go wild sometimes because they look better to me. I don't like everything groomed, but I'm a big groomer as well. You have to
let
be.
some things kind of seed or come back up on their own.
Yeah, just let it go wild.
You're telling me in the winter we have this huge boulder behind us, but you have those all strewn throughout.
There are 5 of those that go back in through there and act as an archway. So even in the winter months when this is barren, it's still a room. It's an even bigger room.
Yeah.
But my winter garden is interesting. I leave, like my grasses, if I don't have an ice storm that collapses them, I'll leave them standing and they're golden and they're beautiful. But a lot of the other plants I'll take down and I'll grind them up and use them as mulch. So it takes on a whole different look every season.
Now, when we came through here earlier, you said this is your favorite view.
This
of the
is my
garden.
favorite
Why
view.
is that?
I don't know. I like the way the grass is kind of like a lake. It acts as just an open field for my dogs to run around in. But I like looking back that way.
It's real soft, all the curved lines.
It's the one venue in my garden where you get a panorama. I think is probably the answer to that. You asked me about spaces.
Yes,
Around the corner is Dollywood.
and Dollywood. How did Dollywood get its name?
Dollywood got its name because I like repurposing things. And a neighbor of mine had cut down a pine tree, and it was in a big junk pile. And I had noticed that he had cut them in all these different lengths. And I thought, that'd make a neat bench.
Yeah.
So my friend and I, RD, broke our backs and blistered our fingers, hauling these down one evening and arranging them from highest to lowest and trying to get it to maneuver the hill so that it had this feeling. And I looked at it and I went, perfect. And then I put in a porch swing, which is the ride. So now it's officially Dollywood.
But it has a lot of motion visually with that. Nice
It's a fun
arcing
area.
bench.
It's the coolest down here in the wintertime. This is or summertime. It's the coolest spot in the garden. And it's kind of wild. It's not real. I don't really garden down here. I just let come up what comes up.
Excellent.
I water it, but Dollywood, love it. This is the backside of a little place that I have that I rent to culinary students, and it got the name the Bamboo Inn.
Because of the surroundings or the interior?
I had a contest with my brother and his family when they were here. We needed to name it, and this little 6-year-old nephew of mine came running in and he said, how about the Bamboo Inn? So it stuck.
I think it's good. It fits with the entryway full of bamboo.
It fits, and the folks that live here enjoy that deck and this space and looking
A
out.
wonderful view. Well, we'll have to work on a name for the sitting area.
Yeah, I got to come up with something for that. I don't know what it's going to be.
Well, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for sharing your garden.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
In addition to the wonderful ornamental backyard gardens, we also have a vegetable garden here at Chesapeake Energy Corporation. And joining me is Kat Goodwin to tell us about the program. This is the employee garden here.
Yeah.
Wonderful idea. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, we have a whole city block here that's about 2 acres, and we have 65 raised beds that we enable our employees to come out and join together in teams and grow their own fruits and veggies and flowers that they can take home and enjoy their families.
I like the idea that people come out and work as a team and get to work with their coworkers in a different setting.
Yeah, there's so many benefits to it, and one of them is just meeting people outside of the office, building camaraderie and friendships that way. That's kind of unusual way to do it.
And where did the idea for this employee garden come from?
The idea came from our CEO, Aubrey McClendon. He was traveling abroad and saw a space that was being tended by employees of a corporation up there and brought the idea home. And there was already a little buzz about doing a garden here, so the idea just took off from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your role here is to coordinate this garden and all the people involved with that.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yeah.
You offer a little bit of education to people?
Yeah, that's my job is to coordinate the program, but also to provide classes. We teach basics of sustainable gardening and all sorts of classes to help people get started and succeed through the season. We have a lot of beginner gardeners here, and so it's fun to see people get the bug and then help them along the way, and that's one of my main roles.
Be able to get them off to a good start.
Yeah.
One last thing, you grow some of this, you have some beds dedicated to donating food, and then people can also donate their extra food as well, right?
Yeah, we have 5 plots that we designated just for our local food pantry, Brettville Community Food Pantry. And so we tend that with volunteer help. Casey, my assistant, and I do, and then we enable our employees to bring their excess produce once a week or twice a week to add to that donation every week. So we've donated about 1,400 pounds to the food pantry this season. So it's pretty exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, this is wonderful for the employees and also great service back to the community. Thanks for sharing and being
You're
a
welcome.
part of the tour.
We're excited to be on the tour for sure. So.